I want to show you how to save your fondant if it came out a little bit too dry. Now to start, I want to show you what a good batch of marshmallow fondant looks like. I just made this, and what I like to do after I make the fondant, I sprinkle a little bit of Tylose powder in here, and I do have a video showing you how I make my marshmallow fondant, and I will link that below. But I always add a little bit of Tylose powder because it helps make it a little stretchy and just brings it to a better consistency. And I just want to wrap this up, so I'm getting some cornstarch down on the countertop, roll it in there, and wrapping it up in plastic. Now, I made another batch, and there was too much powdered sugar added to it, and look how dry this is. It is very stiff, and you can see that as I knead it, it is just breaking apart. It is not smooth like that other fondant that I made, and you have to work with this if you don't want to throw it out in the trash. It is salvageable, but you're going to have to work with it a little bit, and you're going to be limited as to what decorations you can do with this. So I'm ripping off a tiny piece of that. I got some Crisco shortening in my hands, and I am just going to start kneading the shortening into these small pieces. You see how that is still breaking apart as I knead it? So what I want to do is just get a little bit more Crisco shortening on my hands. And it wasn't too much, probably about a half teaspoon. I'm just rubbing it in my hands and kneading it into the fondant. It's helping to smooth out the fondant so it isn't as dry and it doesn't crack as much. Already you can see how it's getting a lot smoother from adding that shortening. So then I'm going to take another little piece, and you can see how this is breaking apart. It's not holding together. So I get a little bit more shortening and put it in my hands and knead it in there. And I'm just trying to soften up this fondant. And you can see as I work that shortening in there, it does start to smooth out a little bit. And I'm doing that for all three of the pieces. Now, when the fondant is dry like this, you will be limited as to what you can do with this fondant. It is more prone to cracking and drying out, so you can't cover a cake with it. You see how it's still breaking apart a little bit, but you can make small decorations with it. So what I did, I ripped off a little piece, sprinkled down some cornstarch, and I'm rolling it out with my rolling pin pretty thin, probably about like an eighth of an inch thick. And you can see as I start to run my X-Acto knife through it, like if I were to cut names or something out of here, it's not dragging, which is really nice. However, you have to be careful because the edges of this dry fondant will tend to dry out a little quicker, so you may have to smooth that and get it on the cake right away. But I would reserve this fondant just for decorations that are going to stick against the side of the cake, kind of like what I did for this. So the white and the silver are both that dried out fondant, which I rolled out. I made some impressions in it. I painted the gray silver, and I put it exactly against the cake. So there's no chance of it cracking or breaking, but I was able to salvage that fondant. But again, the key is to use it as quickly as possible and get it on the cake so it can dry and contour to the shape of the cake. That way it has less chance of breaking. And this fondant won't last as long, so you just want to use it up as quickly as possible.